Coming up on this episode of the Locked On Bucs podcast, I am joined by Julian Council of Locked On Panthers for a crossover Thursday. We're going to dive in to some of the things that I've been talking about this week about the Buccaneers, but we're going to flip the script and talk about Cam Newton, DJ Moore, the Panthers defense, and much, much more. All that and more coming up on this episode. Let's dive in.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to the Locked On Bucs podcast. I am James Yarko. You can check out everything that I'm doing over at bucksnation.com. You can check out everything that my co-host and I are doing on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarko_Bucs, at DHarrison82, and at Bucs_Nation. Shout out David. He's normally the voice that you hear on these crossover Thursday episodes, but as I've told you, he's out for the week, spending time with the family. No harm, no foul. I was really excited to talk to Julian about the Carolina Panthers, and to be fair, David already got to talk to Julian for the Washington football team, Carolina Panthers crossover, and he'll get to talk to Julian in 2 weeks for the season finale for the Bucs and Panthers. So you know what? It was my turn. I wanted to talk to Julian and ask him the questions, and you all know how excited I am to talk about Cam Newton, my favorite player. But before we get to all of that, there is a little bit of news. The signing of Le'Veon Bell for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers became official on Wednesday. He was at practice. However, of course, we have to talk about the players that weren't at practice. And it was exactly who you would expect. Leonard Fournette, who has not officially been placed on IR yet, but that move is coming. Mike Evans did not practice with that hamstring issue. Lavonte David did not practice with his foot injury, and a new name to throw into the mix. And well, I mean, a new name that we haven't talked about, but he was out last week as well. Antoine Winfield Jr. did not practice as well. So his status is in question, but Mike Edwards returned to practice. Antonio Brown returned to practice. Richard Sherman returned to practice. So that is some good news. Bruce Arians told the media that Antonio Brown looks as good as he did before the injury. He said that Mike Edwards looked like he was in great shape, was staying in shape during his suspension. So the Bucs are getting a few key pieces back, but can they overcome the loss of all of these players that we've been talking about all week long? Julian of Locked On Panthers asks that exact question, so we will dive into that. First, I have to tell you, my fantasy team, probably your fantasy team, we all laid enormous duds, right? This might have been the worst fantasy week of all time. My kicker outscored my quarterback, one of my receivers, and one of my running backs all combined. And yes, my quarterback was Tom Brady in week 1 of the fantasy playoffs, but I have a shot at redemption, and so do you, because no one plays daily fantasy sports to lose. Winning feels so much better, but traditional fantasy sports are a long-term losing proposition because you never know who or what you're up against. Stat Hero is the first of its kind daily fantasy sports platform where it's you versus the house head to head in fantasy matchups, winner take all. The crazy part, Stat Hero shows you their lineup before you play, and you handpick the team that you want to face one-on-one. This never before seen innovation of a fantasy sports and sports betting hybrid has Stat Hero players clocking odds that are over 4 times better. Why? Because you don't compete against thousands of experts or unknowns. Stat Hero puts you in control of your fate. With Stat Hero, you are in control of the stakes. You decide how much you're going to play for, and Stat Hero has no choice but to take it because they're daring you to beat them. Stat Hero head to head is what daily fantasy truly should be, one-on-one. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/lockedon and use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Use promo code LOCKEDON for a 100% match. StatHero.com/locked on, promo code locked on. Terms and conditions apply. StatHero.com.
Back here again for another crossover Thursday on Locked On Panthers. I'm your host, Julian Council, joined this week by one of the hosts of Locked On Bucs, riding solo this week, James Yarko. James, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, buddy. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm in the holiday spirit, ready for Christmas to be here. I don't love that it's on a Saturday. I do love the Saturday NFL matchups that we do have because they're a lot better than the ones that we got on Thanksgiving Day. I am a big advocate of the NFL forever banishing the Detroit Lions from Thursday during Thanksgiving Day. I would even tell them to get rid of the Dallas Cowboys because I'm sick of Dallas. They haven't been relevant in years outside of their rabid, annoying fan base. But those aren't the teams we're talking about today. This matchup between the Carolina Panthers at home and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that we've been waiting for a long time. Finally, it's week 16, and these two teams are finally matching up, but not very much meaning. It seems like going to this game with Carolina 5-9, likely out of the playoffs, even if they were to win out by beating the Bucs twice in New Orleans next week. And then the Buccaneers firmly in position to win the NFC South and to compete for that number one seed in the NFC. And let's start there. Coming off of a loss at home against the Saints with a multitude of injuries that we'll get into here shortly, but also Sean Payton tested positive for COVID. It was not on the sideline. Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator for the Saints, was the acting head coach, and his defensive unit was awesome, shutting down Tom Brady and that Buccaneers offense. How big of a dent did that put on the Buccaneers' opportunity and chance to be the number one seed in the NFC as Green Bay was able to survive against Baltimore on Sunday afternoon?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, the number one seed is all but out of reach for the Buccaneers, because what you have to have happen now is the Buccaneers have to win out. And then you're looking at the Packers to lose 2 out of 3 because they have the tiebreaker as far as the conference record is concerned. They're now in a 3-way tie with Dallas and Arizona. Dallas, even though Tampa beat them in week 1, has the tiebreaker in a 3-way tie based on conference record. So it's a massive uphill climb now for the Bucs to get the number one seed. It's not impossible, but you're basically looking at a best case scenario of the Bucs getting the 2 seed if it comes down to it, because somehow I was messing with it earlier. Greg Allman of The Athletic tweeted about it as well. You're looking at a situation where if there's a 3-way tie with the Bucs, the Rams, and the Cowboys, the Bucs are the 2 seed. But if there's a 4-way tie between the Packers, the Bucs, the Cowboys, and the Rams, then the Bucs are the 4 seed. It's weird, but it's, it all stems. It just kind of continues to pile on what was already a bad night for the Bucs against the Saints on Sunday night last week. You lose the chance to get the number one seed in that first round bye and the home field advantage. Plus you lose a litany of players.
Yeah, and that's one of the things looking at it, because if they win on Sunday, which I expect, and I think a lot of people are expecting they will do, coming here to Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, they'll wrap up the division. They'll have a home playoff game. We know that's going to happen. And last year, at least for the Bucs, they went on the road and beat the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. Mm-hmm. A whole different ball game, I suppose, this year with the probably full stadiums now with the Omicron variant that has definitely run rampant throughout the NFL and across the country here recently. We'll see how full stadiums goes as we head towards the playoffs. So talking about those injuries, Chris Godwin, it was first reported that was only an MCL. I was watching that game on Sunday night. I was like, that's his ACL. That dude's definitely done for the season. Unfortunately, he is out for the rest of the season, and we'll see when he returns next year, because that will be something that will definitely be one of the things you watch heading into training camp next year. Also, Leonard Fournette out for the rest of the regular season. The Bucs are banged up, and they've been banged up all season long. I remember we talked about this during our NFC South preview show with Ross Jackson and Aaron Freeman of Locked On Saints and Locked On Falcons, respectively. The Bucs had some of the best injury luck last season. That has not been the case this year. How do you expect them to overcome these injuries if they are able to moving forward?
The loss of Godwin is absolutely heartbreaking on a multitude of levels. Yeah, he is by far one of the biggest fan favorites among Buccaneers fans. He's a huge favorite amongst David and I at the Locked On Bucs podcast. But you're looking at no Godwin for the remainder of the season. Leonard Fournette on IR, as you mentioned. Also, Mike Evans suffered a hamstring injury. He's week to week. He may not play this Sunday against the Panthers. You have Giovanni Bernard, who is still on injured reserve. You lost Lavonte David at the end of that game to a foot injury. You lost Patrick O'Connor to a torn PCL and partial MCL. it's bad. So you're actually kind of grateful if you're a Buccaneers fan that Antonio Brown is coming back this week. Otherwise, the offense was going to look real similar to what it did against the Saints. You're going to have Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller and Jalen Darden out there. Ronald Jones has had success against the Panthers in the past. He's going to be the number one back. Now you bring in Le'Veon Bell, who can be that pass catching option out of the backfield if he can pick up the offense fast enough, because Keyshawn Vaughn is not the answer to any question when it comes to what a running back can and should and would and could do. So you're looking for a lot out of Le'Veon Bell, who you just pulled off the street. He said that he was excited to rejoin his teammate Antonio Brown. He's excited to play with Tom Brady, excited to play for Bruce Arians, and that the Buccaneers were the only team that were going to get him back in football and get him excited to play football. He had started to look forward to a career in boxing, for whatever that's worth. But
Yes.
he got the phone call and he said, this is the one team that makes me excited to go play football. Maybe he performs better than he did in Baltimore. Maybe he wasn't excited about playing in Baltimore. I don't know. But the Buccaneers are a talented football team. There's no question about it. They overcame injuries all season long. Losing Godwin, that's a big one to overcome, but they can withstand the injuries against the Panthers, against the Jets, and then against the Panthers again. But you need Leonard Fournette for that playoff run. You need Mike Evans for that playoff run, and you need Lavonte David, who's out for the remainder of the regular season, to be back for that playoff run if they're going to stand a chance.
Yeah, and I love you bring up Le'Veon Bell, who seems to be in the ring chasing part of his career. He was back with the Chiefs last season, was unable to get that Super Bowl ring. Now he's going to Tampa Bay with a litany of injuries, hoping to fill in, and we'll see if he even sticks around long enough to be a part of a Super Bowl winning team if the Bucs are able to repeat this season. Now, last one here for you, and this has been one of the bigger stories, at least this week and in the last couple of weeks, as Antonio Brown was suspended for 3 weeks for giving the league a fake vaccination card. Now, it's important to note that he actually has been vaccinated, so he did eventually live up to what you needed to do to be a part of the protocols and to live the life that he wanted to live as a vaccinated player, at least when he first tried to deceive the Bucs. Bruce Arians had talked about last season when he brought in Antonio Brown that he wanted to, if Antonio Brown messed up one time, he was gone. Now, Bruce Arians said the other day that he doesn't really give a bleep what anyone says, that he's doing what's best for the football team. And I, for one, honestly admire that. Yes, Antonio Brown is, I'm not, there's a lot of things Antonio Brown has done that probably aren't the things that people love. But this is about winning football games. Let's not get it twisted. And I honestly appreciate Bruce Arians going out there and just saying, look, guys, we're trying to win a Super Bowl here. We got a bunch of injuries. Like, we need Antonio Brown. What was your thoughts when you heard Bruce Arians said that, and also just his decision to allow Antonio Brown to be a part of this football team moving forward?
I actually raised the question on one of my episodes when I had Evan Klosky of 10 Tampa Bay, the sports director for the Tampa CBS affiliate. I said, does Antonio Brown getting a second contract, he played that half season last year, won the Super Bowl. That was when Bruce Arians said, you so much as fart in the locker room and it stinks too much and you're gone. Did he get a reset as soon as he signed that second contract? And essentially that's what Bruce Arians came out and said, that he did enough in that half of a season in the playoff run to show that he was a good teammate. He was going to stay out of trouble. He was going to do what they asked him to do. He was going to do what they told him to do. He wasn't going to be a distraction, all of those things. So he got the reset. Now, it would have been nice if Bruce Arians had said that prior to all of the drama that went on, but he probably felt like he didn't have to, or he felt like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there because, as he said, I don't give a bleep what anybody thinks about it. There's no question that if the Buccaneers are going to stand any chance of repeating as Super Bowl champions, Antonio Brown has to be part of this team, especially with Chris Godwin gone and especially with Mike Evans week to week at this point in time. If Antonio Brown is not out on that field, the Buccaneers offense is going to be putrid. Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, Brashad Perryman, Jalen Darden, those are not names that are striking fear into the hearts of any corners or any safeties in the league, period. Scotty Miller, you may get a little bit of a twitch because he's such a deep threat, but if that's all you have, then why does it matter? you can bracket him, no problem. We take away that deep threat. Now you have to rely on slip and slide Darden, who can't stay on his feet for more than 4 yards, to try to make things happen. And we saw how well that went against the Saints. So ultimately, it boils down to something that I talked about on my episode yesterday, and that was be who you can afford to be. And right now, Antonio Brown can afford to be a guy that does something stupid, gets himself in trouble with the league for utilizing this forged vaccination card, because at the end of the day, Bruce Arians, Tom Brady, Jason Light, everybody inside that building in Tampa is there to win football games, and Antonio Brown helps you accomplish that. That is the ultimate goal, and they're not really going to put much of anything ahead of that. It would be a different story if we were talking about a situation where there was a crash and Antonio Brown was driving drunk, or there was a domestic violence issue, or there was an issue with children, or something of that magnitude. Obviously, it's different than turning in a forged vaccination card. So with that, obviously, your listeners are hoping that the Buccaneers get kicked in the face and fall flat and lose in the postseason. My listeners, on the other hand, are hoping that the Buccaneers are going to be playing in SoFi Stadium in less than 100 days. And On Location is the official hospitality partner of the NFL, and it is the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package. Select your exact seats, choose from elite experiences featuring an exclusive pregame celebration with NFL legends, 5-star LA hotels, and food by the great Wolfgang Puck. Visit onlocation.com/SB56 for more information, or search Super Bowl On Location. That's onlocationexp.com/SB56, or search Super Bowl On Location. You would also have to think that after the injuries to Godwin and Fournette and David and Evans, that the Buccaneers Super Bowl odds might have dipped a little bit. If you want an opportunity to cash in and have them go on and repeat as champions, you could probably make a little extra money over with our friends at betonline.ag, because BetOnline has you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before, as football continues its march through the College Bowl season and the Pro Football Playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with promo code Locked On. That's LOCKEDON for a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait. Take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, so don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers. BetOnline, where the game starts. Wrapping things up here on a crossover Thursday edition of the Locked On Bucs and Locked On Panthers podcast. James Yarko and Julian Council on Twitter at JYarko_Bucs, at Julian Council. Julian, it's time to flip the script a little bit and let's talk about those Carolina Panthers, because this is the first time you and I have talked since we did that NFC South preview show. And to be fair, I did place the Carolina Panthers in 4th place in the division. I did say Atlanta would finish 3rd, New Orleans 2nd, Tampa 1st. So far.
You nailed it. No, you've nailed it.
No, not yet. Not yet. Crazy things have happened. We've seen, the Saints beat the Bucs last week. We've seen the Jets beat the Titans and the Bengals. We see the Lions beat the Cardinals, so you never know. And with a win, the Panthers can keep their very, very slim playoff hopes still alive as the bottom of that NFC wildcard race. It's not stellar records. But the biggest news, of course, is, as you know, my favorite player, Cam Newton, is back with the Carolina Panthers. And it was really exciting for Panthers fans, to see number one back on the field, taking off his helmet, screaming, "I'm back," doing the Superman, all that stuff. But the last 3 games, Cam Newton has not been great. In fact, I wrote a preview for the game for Bucs Nation, and over the course of the last 3 games, he's 38 of 84 for 426, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. He does have 123 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns, but he's been sacked 6 times. Matt Rule came out and said that Sam Darnold is going to get some playing time. If he doesn't like what he sees out of Cam Newton. What have you seen out of Cam Newton? And do you have the confidence that you might see kind of that retro, vintage Cam Newton against a team that he tormented for years and years there in Carolina?
Well, I would love to see it. I think Sunday afternoon at Bank of America Stadium in Uptown Charlotte will be Cam Newton's final home game as a Carolina Panther. I do not expect him to be back next season. As much as I love and appreciate what Cam Newton has done for the city of Charlotte and this organization, it's just time to move on. And honestly, they probably should have never brought him back. And I loved it. It was fun. Listen, I got caught up in it. It was a fun 10 days. The Arizona game, scoring on his first 2 touches, the home camming, and Ron Rivera's return. And he played great against Washington. And had he played that way through the next couple weeks, there would have been a great case to bring back Cam Newton through a full offseason program and see what he could do in a full season as a Carolina Panthers starting quarterback. The problem is he was not very good against Miami. Like he was bad, terrible against Miami. And everyone on the offense was terrible against Miami. The offense has not been good at all this season. You go into the bye week, they fired Joe Brady. Was it Cam's fault that Joe Brady got fired? Absolutely not. There was plenty of things that pointed to the reason why Joe Brady should have been fired, and also probably why he should have never been the OC here in Carolina. But I've been over that plenty of times on my podcast. My listeners know how I feel about that situation. He came back against, who was it? Not Atlanta. Yeah, it was Atlanta. And was just okay. Had 2 costly turnovers. But outside of that, I thought he was fine. And then on Sunday against Buffalo, didn't turn the ball over until late when it didn't really matter. I thought he kept him in the game competitively, but the only 2 deep balls he threw, one of them to DJ Moore, wildly underthrown, and then the other one threw out of bounds. He just is not going to elevate the passing game for the Carolina Panthers. And Matt Rule's brought up how the Carolina Panthers in the past don't have an elite passing game. And they also, that's one of the things that's really killing them, not having those explosive plays. And I just don't think at this stage in his career that Cam Newton gives you that. I also think context is important. What should the expectations really have been for Cam Newton? When everyone's like, Cam's coming back here to save the season. He hasn't played football since August when he was back with the New England Patriots. He doesn't know the system. He's still trying to learn the playbook. So I can't really sit here and bang on the guy for the poor performances that he's had, but it's awesome what I saw against Washington. It just hasn't carried over, and I just don't know how much he has left in the tank, and really the Carolina Panthers should be hinging the rest of the Matt Rule era if he does get a 3rd year, and the rest of his franchise moving forward on the shoulder and the legs of Cameron Jarrell Newton. So as much as I love him, I just think it's time to move on. Now, that being said, Sam Darnold likely is going to play on Sunday. Matt Rule said that he expect him to play. He also said the same thing last week about P.J. Walker. He didn't play because Cam played well enough that they didn't need P.J. Walker. Sam Darnold does not have a future in Carolina past next season. The $18.858 million cap that he has is prohibitive. It's not going to allow him to be traded anywhere. He will be the backup next year, and there really is no reason for him to play. Start Cam on Sunday, which he will. And then after that, Matt Rule, if you really feel like you need to see Sam Darnold next couple weeks, fine. Do it on the road in New Orleans, do it on the road in Tampa Bay, but give the fans one last time to watch and celebrate Cam Newton, as this will probably be the last time, and I'm pretty sure it will be, that we see him in a Carolina Panthers uniform at home at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte.
It honestly may be the last time we see him in any NFL uniform. There's no question that Cam
possibly
a weapon with his legs, but as far as his throwing, it has not looked pretty, and it hasn't really honestly looked pretty for a few years. He had that injury that he dealt with, and it took a lot of velocity. It looked like he was putting every ounce of strength he had in 10 to 12-yard throws, and he just hasn't been the same since. I dislike him. I strongly dislike him. All of our listeners know that. But there's no question what a talent and what a phenomenal weapon he was for the Carolina Panthers for all those years. So it would be great for the fans to kind of get their farewell, say goodbye. Hopefully it's in a losing effort. But one thing that I noticed over the course of the past couple of weeks is basically since Cam Newton arrived, is kind of the shift in the offense where DJ Moore was the guy. Okay, he was the go-to player. He was putting up points. He was creating plays, and it's starting to tilt to Robbie Anderson now. On the injury report, DJ Moore did not participate with a hamstring injury on Wednesday, so obviously his status is in question. But I'm not going to sit here and say that he's definitely not going to play. But I feel personally, from the outside looking in, and I want you to either confirm or deny, that DJ Moore is a legitimate number 1 threat as a wide receiver in the NFL. And he's not getting the opportunity or the looks that he should get. And if he were to get those, it would create a little bit more competitive balance for the Carolina Panthers against some of these other teams. Yet Robbie Anderson, who is a guy who has drop issues, he's, easily forgotten, easily ignored, has all of a sudden become Cam's number one guy. What do you feel about the usage of DJ Moore? And do you feel that, not utilizing him is hurting the Panthers in a big way?
It's interesting you asked that, because one of the stories, at least offensively, and trying to pinpoint the struggles, was Robbie Anderson regressing this year. After last year, he had a career year, led the team in receptions, had over 1,000 yards receiving for the first time in his career, which warranted the team to hand him an extension prior to the season. And then after a couple weeks, everyone's like, well, shouldn't have done that, it looks like. And yeah, he's played well the last couple weeks. He had his best game of the season against Atlanta, and then last week against Buffalo. Yeah, I've seen, look, what you've seen the same thing about them probably making a more concerted effort to get Robbie Anderson the football, which is good. And DJ Moore still is making plays, but not as many as you want to see. And he was certainly Sam Darnold's number one target, as Robbie wasn't playing well. They don't have a third option. Christian McCaffrey was injured. They don't have a tight end pass catching option after they traded Dan Arnold to Jacksonville to get CJ Henderson in that trade. I still think DJ Moore is fine. I think his biggest issue is the last couple of seasons. This guy's had over 1,000 yards the last 2 seasons. He's going to have it again this year. He's had to play with Cam 2.0 here in Carolina, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, Teddy Bridgewater, Kyle Allen. And then when Cam was falling apart back in 2019, the dude has never really had one of those top tier quarterbacks. Everyone talks about, not Allen Robinson in Chicago. We got to get Allen Robinson to quarterback. Now the Bears finally got Justin Fields. We'll see how free agent plays out. Don't really care about the Bears either way. But that was a wide receiver when everyone talked about, we got to get him a quarterback. Like, can we get DJ Moore a quarterback? Get this guy some help? Because I certainly think he is absolutely a number one wide receiving threat. I don't think he's necessarily better than any of the guys in Tampa, because I love Godwin. Antonio Brown has a Hall of Fame candidacy case there. And then Mike Evans. Those 3 guys are tremendous. But I think DJ Moore absolutely is as good as those guys, maybe not better than them, but he's a fantastic wide receiver who deserves more opportunities and just really hasn't been put in the right place to succeed, even though he has. He succeeded in spite of poor quarterback play over the last couple seasons, and it's really been tough for him over the last month and a half, just having Sam throw the ball away and having to deal with Cam and PJ trying to hopefully elevate the offense, which really has not happened in Sam Darnold's absence.
Last one from me, Julian. I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball. Panthers start off red hot. They make a move for Stephon Gilmore to come in and help an already very talented defense. But now all of a sudden, this defense doesn't look quite as scary as it was earlier in the year. They're giving up a little bit more than 22 points per game, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's like pretty much right in the middle of the league. I think they're ranked 18th. They're giving up like a half point more per game than the Bucs, who are right there at 14th. So there's a lot of teams squished right there in the middle, giving up just a little over 20 points per game. But you take a look at some of the threats on the defensive side of the ball, and obviously Stephon Gilmore is the big name. But who are some players that Buccaneers fans may not know about that they really need to keep their eye on Sunday that can cause problems, especially for a battered and bruised Buccaneers offense that may be without Mike Evans on top of already being without Chris Godwin and Leonard Fournette?
Yeah, it's interesting, too, when you look at the wide receiver in kind of secondary matchup, like the Bucs wide receivers versus the Panthers secondary, because the Panthers, they have 3 of their top corners now on IR and out for the season. J.C. Horn, who broke his foot back in week 3, he's done for the year. You also recently, they put Dante Jackson there. And then this week, A.J. Bouye, who's on IR. So you have Stephon Gilmore still, which is great. And there's plenty of depth. That's one of the deepest positions on the roster. But you don't have the upper echelon guys outside of Gilmore that you had to start out the season, or at least had middle of the season. So Gilmore obviously is the name to look at. But CJ Henderson, they traded for him. I mentioned him a few moments ago. They traded for him. He's had mixed results since coming to Carolina, and his first start was against Dallas week 4, at least his first appearance against Dallas week 4. He's going to get a ton of reps. He's someone to look out for. The rookie 6th rounder out of Washington, Keith Taylor, someone that they really like. Now, coming off the edge, though, Hassan Reddick, I know the Pro Bowl voting's coming out as we're recording this. I believe he'll be a Pro Bowler. Not quite sure whether he will be or not. He's had double-digit sacks again this season. That was one of the questions of whether last year, the contract year in Arizona, whether it was a lie or it was real. Well, he's definitely not a liar. He's a baller, and he's going to be coming off the edge and trying to see what he can do to give some pressure up on Tom Brady. And then also Brian Burns, who I don't think has had the season quite like we wanted to see him have, because I thought he was going to be a Pro Bowl candidate this year. but he still has a ton of talent. Going to be someone who's going to be one of the leaders of that defense moving forward. That's someone to look out for. And then Jeremy Chin was excellent last year. He's been excellent again this year. Maybe not the best in coverage. That's the only thing only hang up I have with him, but he's versatile. You can play him at strong safety. You can play as free safety you want to. You can blitz him. You can have him at linebacker. You can put him there at the nickel. He can ball, and he's someone that absolutely could wreak havoc on Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This Panthers team is going to be able to win that game at home in their season finale or home finale at Bank of America Stadium on Sunday.
Yeah, I absolutely love watching Jeremy Chin play football. He's one of my favorite players to watch. That isn't someone that I get to watch every single week, but I do enjoy the times that I get to watch him. Julian, let's wrap things up with some predictions here. We're gonna give our score predictions. If you have one, how do you see this game playing out between the Bucs and the Panthers at Bank of America Stadium?
Yeah, the Bucs were one of those teams where last year the Carolina Panthers were actually fairly competitive for a 5-11 team. That was the only 2 games all season long where they just it was no contest. And Tampa Bay being beat up makes me think maybe it's not going to be as bad as it could have been had they had Leonard Fournette, had Mike Evans been 100%, Chris Godwin playing, and now the return of Antonio Brown. I still feel like Tampa Bay wins this game by 2 scores. It would be nice to see Cam go out with a bang and have a great performance for the Carolina Panthers to figure things out. But the problem is, though, and the reality is the offensive line is terrible. Probably the worst in the National Football League this year. Christian McCaffrey's injured. Robbie Anderson, yes, while he's played well the last couple of weeks, he still has not lived up to the expectations this season. And the Panthers don't have any kind of deep field, downfield threat passing game. And I don't see how they're going to be a team like Tampa Bay in a creative defensive scheme that Todd Bowles implements and be able to beat them and have success. So I think defensively they can keep up. I just don't think offensively I'm going to have much expectations coming out for them against that Bucs defense on Sunday, despite the injuries. So I say the Bucs by 10, 14 on Sunday afternoon at home here in Charlotte.
Yeah, I see a very angry Buccaneers team coming off of a loss. Shut out.
That too.
Shut out at home, averaging nearly 40 points a game at home up until that point. They're still the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL, but now they've dropped below that 30 points per game mark because of the goose egg. And you have a lot of questions about them. Can they win without Godwin? Can they win without Leonard Fournette? Can they win without Mike Evans? They want to go out and prove, yes, absolutely we can. And we're going to make a statement against a division rival in our second consecutive week of being able to have a hat and t-shirt game, as they call it. So I see the Bucs winning this one pretty big. I believe the score prediction that I have for BucsNation.com is 30-10. They're going to be out to prove something.
Hey, we'll talk about this in a couple weeks since we'll have another crossover Thursday. That's the one fun thing about having this game later on into the season, and might have some news coming out of Carolina by that time. So to wrap things up here for James Yarko of Locked On Bucs and Julian Council of Locked On Panthers, this will be my last episode of the week. Sorry, folks, you're not getting something for me on Christmas Eve. So have a Merry Christmas and then a Happy New Year, which I'll talk to you guys again on Sunday following the game. But you can follow me on Twitter at Julian Council. You can follow James on Twitter at JYarko_Bucs. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can listen to Locked On Bucs and watch it on YouTube. I'm not currently on YouTube. Will I ever be on YouTube? I don't know. You have to find out another day. So for James Yarko, I'm Julian Council. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this crossover episode of Locked On Panthers and Locked On Bucs. Stay tuned for the game on Sunday, and I'll talk to you. We'll both talk to you then. So take care. Merry Christmas.